Welcome to PopWire. My name is Rowell. Today we are joined by the incredibly talented Eric Hicks, who you can watch on the upcoming Lifetime thriller Girl Taken, airing this weekend on Lifetime. Eric, thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
Oh, doing awesome, man. I got my chamomile tea here, so I'm just zen right out.
Perfect. Yes, love being Zen. Okay, before we get into the movie, I have some questions about your personal life.
Oh,
You
nice.
are a big gamer, and my brother has all the consoles.
Oh,
Yeah, you star in the opening cinematic of the highly anticipated Gears of War E-Day, the next
yeah.
chapter in Xbox's iconic franchise. And with the
Mm.
recently released Minecraft movie, that made me curious to know what video game would you love to see adapted into a feature film and is one that you would love to star in?
Call of Duty, Warzone. I mean, watch the cinematics of Call of Duty, and it's so good. The voice acting's so good, the blocking, the sets, the setting. It's like I watch it like it's a movie. And I just don't understand why nobody has done it yet. I know they just did Halo, but I'm like, why has nobody done Call of Duty yet? I'm like, there's so much humor in that video game too. And just like the comms, like everybody wears headsets when you game. And so the communication style, there's such a certain type of specific language that everyone has when you're playing that game too, that if you could incorporate that type of humor into the game with certain types of references, I mean, that game is so loaded with memes that if you can incorporate those memes and that humor into a series, I'm like, it's a you have a guaranteed billion person audience. It's so good. Yeah, I'm waiting for that, and I have to be in it if it happens. I
Yeah,
have to. It's good.
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, true story, okay?
Mm.
When I was 15 years old, I had a
Yeah.
classmate who was vegetarian, and I was
Yeah.
curious as to why, and then she told me her story, and she gave me a website called goveg.org. The website doesn't work today, but it worked, it was really active back then. That night, I visited the website, and I read some horrifying stories, saw some horrifying videos and photos. Literally overnight, I stopped eating beef and pork, so I became a polo pescatarian, and I still
Uh-huh.
am to this day.
Oh.
And 5 years later, meeting her, I ran into her at a pharmacy, and I told her, "I'm still a polo pescatarian," and she told me, "Oh, yeah, I'm not a vegetarian anymore." And I felt, like, so betrayed. And I hear that you have a similar story, right?
Yeah, that's funny, man. That's funny. That's very relatable. But yeah, I was always trying to figure out like how do you be the healthiest? And I was always reading all the men's health magazines and trying to follow it. And then I love debating as well. And so I had this really talented British actor friend, and we got in a debate. I was paleo at the time and he was vegan. Anyways, he gave me these resources to look into, and I was like, damn it. I spent like 8 months transitioning into being vegan. It was the hardest thing I think I've done in my life. It's not easy. It's really not easy when you spend your whole life eating a certain way. And then I ran into a mutual friend of ours, like maybe 4 years later, and she tells me that he's not vegan anymore. And I was like, oh, that son of a gun. I'm like, he converted me over and then he bailed himself. And I was gonna ask him, but I was like, "You know what?" I'm like, "Let him do him, because 'cause I'm like, being vegan is not easy. It's been 11 years I've been doing it now, but I'm like, I still smell jerk chicken and go, "Oh," I'm like that. I start salivating, so it's not an easy transition.
Yeah, you know what's funny is
Yeah.
my brother is a really good cook, and
Mm.
he cooks, like, steak and all, and I
Oh,
love the
yeah.
smell, but I would just never touch it?
Yeah. Yeah, you understand the pain.
You star in Lifetime's upcoming thriller Girl Taken. I
Mhm.
recently watched it, and I was riveted the whole time. Can you explain what the movie is about?
It's about this girl, Rose Morel, and she goes through her dad died a couple of years ago in a head-on collision. He was a trucker, and she just kind of felt a little lost in her life, without a father figure, and so she was really seeking the attention of men, and her boyfriend ends up breaking up with her on her birthday, and it just kind of puts her in a really heavy space where she's not having the best relations with her mother. Their communication isn't on par, and my character, Perry, witnesses that firsthand, and his heart opens up, and he really feels like there's a way that he can help her, and my character Perry is also dealing with a 6-month pregnant girlfriend back at home who's struggling, with loneliness and, chores at home, and so, my character just sees an opportunity to bridge these 2 worlds of people who are suffering and maybe make a win-win situation. And, as we know in life, these ideas, this idealism we have of how we think we can make the best of a situation, things don't go as planned. And so, all these curveballs come down the road and chaos ensues in a classic Lifetime thriller. But it was just such a joy to make, such it was so much fun, all the different layers and colors and very intense film, man, very intense.
Very intense, yes, and I loved your performance, and you had my heart
Mm.
racing throughout the whole movie, and even now, I'm still that's why I'm shaking, 'cause, like and I'm telling myself, "You're just an actor, it was just a movie, you didn't really" you know? And I think it's not a spoiler to say that, you kidnapped the, Rose Morel,
Right.
because that is in these
The description, that's right.
exactly. I loved how you expertly balanced Perry's charm and
Mm.
his chilling menace, and I
Mm.
imagine it was fun playing a bad guy. What was it like playing Perry, and was there anything in particular that you tapped into when playing that role?
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out this perfect dynamic of a charming, disarming kinda character with an undercurrent of a manipulative tendency, whether or not they're aware of it or not is the character, but you as the actor have to be aware of it. And so I've really been trying to dial that fine line for a long time, and this movie came along, I'm like, perfect opportunity for me to play with that. And so I took those 2 kinda components as a framework of that balance of charming, but I wanted to make his character in a sense where he's able to experience, guilt and shame. He's really trying to control situations to craft the world that's safe and secure around him because he's afraid of being alone and losing love, and he'll do anything to keep that love in his life. And so he just becomes desperate to try to control the world around him to keep that love in his life. And so I really had to find what does that mean to me? And for me, that's my relationship with my father. My father hasn't been the healthiest in the past few years. I just love my father, unapologetically. But the idea of losing him forever is devastating. And every part of me wants to control the situation, wants to help him, but I know that this is his life, that he gets to do his own life. And so I have to let go of control. And so I bridge that dynamic into Perry's dynamic to try to give it a little more humanity, a little more raw truth, and a little more desperation of clinging on. So when Perry's clinging on to, this world that he's trying to, keep together, this happiness, this source of joy in his life, I bridge my dad into that. And so it's like I'm almost fighting for my father to keep him alive. In the movie, there's just a desperation that comes across of like not wanting to let go. And that's really what's happening in there.
Mm. You got to share the screen with Erica Durance, who has a
Yeah.
big following due to her popular role on Smallville and others. She also delivers such an emotionally powerful performance in the movie. What was it like working with Erica?
I'm so jealous of her. Erica, like she shows up and she can turn on the emotions.
Mm,
Like, it's just available to her. She's worked that muscle so much in that TV show Saving Hope, the hospital show. I talked to her about it, and she's like, it took a toll on her because day after day after day, you gotta show up and put your heart like, rip your heart open, and she did it. Like, she really did the work. And so, watching her, and she just turns on the waterworks, and I'm like, how? I'm like, for me, it comes at such a deep cost to, open yourself up. It feels like suffering. But for her, she's just able to act and just do it. And I'm like, everyone has a different instrument that they're working with, and her instrument is so well refined that you know that you can just kinda, trust that she's gonna give you something to play with opposite her, and so the scenes that her and I did together are just there's a nice undercurrent of tension in there and a nice playfulness in other scenes, and you don't have to work very hard to act opposite Erica. I just kinda let her do her thing and really just the scene takes care of itself. It was a dream, honestly. She's amazing. She's really talented and is such a sweetheart of a person, and she yeah, anyways, I'm gonna zip my mouth, but yeah.
2 months before pursuing acting, you became a certified sorry,
Prosthetist, yeah, certified
prosthetist. I keep
prosthetist.
wanna say prosthesis, I don't even know what if that is the word.
Yeah, there's different ways. So a prosthesis is an individual artificial limb.
Okay.
Prosthetics is the
Oh,
art of it.
yes.
Prostheses, plural of prosthesis.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a mouthful. A lot of people think you're saying prostitute, and I'm like, "No, no, not that kind of pros."
Yeah. So, yeah, you became a prosthetist months before pursuing acting, and without giving too much away, there's actually a prosthetic arm in the movie.
Mm.
Were you there for that scene, and did you have any notes about, "Oh, this needs to be like this or with that?"
No, I wasn't there for that. I didn't see it. That was new to me watching it as well. But, anytime I'm watching movies and I see any type of prosthetics in there, I'm immediately looking at the components and how they built it and all the suspension systems. I geek out instantly. And, there's that show Dexter where his brother, the ice truck killer, is a prosthetist. And for me, I'm like, I actually started writing a TV series. I'm finished 3 episodes, and the character is a prosthetist. And I'm like, I want to incorporate different elements of that world into a TV show because there hasn't been a show that has really uh, dove in and explored that subject matter. And it needs to happen. It's a big world that a lot of people don't know about, and it's more prevalent around you than you're aware of.
Mm.
And yeah, I think that that would do a big service to the world to just kind of open the doors, take the blinds off of that world.
Why do you think there's so much fascination with these Taken type of movies? There's
It,
such a big audience for these kind of films. Why do
yeah.
you think that there's this big fascination with these types of movies?
I just think when it comes to the thing you love the most in your life, to have that taken away from you is an endlessly like powerful subject matter. And it's like whether it's your dog, your pet, your family member of any, your grandfather on their deathbed, it's like anything to be taken from you, that's the whole point in life is heartbreak, to love so deeply that when you lose something, your heart breaks and you feel the most amount of love you could possibly imagine. And that's what these movies are. They're a reminder to you that when you go home, don't take your love of your family and your friends for granted. Don't, because it's a limited time journey we're on. And so these movies are just a reminder of right, what really matters. And it's always comes down to relationship. It always comes down to family and friends and really, we're social creatures.
Mm.
And this type of movie is as primal as it gets.
And then finally, what would you say to people to convince them to tune in this weekend to watch your new movie, Girl Taken?
Just for the fact of seeing a different type of character, a different approach to the same type of storyline that we've seen again and again. And I really took a different approach to the character and gave it so many different colors that you don't see. Even when I was doing the voiceover at the end, Americanizing certain words and, they didn't get clean audio, even those guys are like, "Holy moly, dude." They're like, "Wow, we've never seen a performance like this." And I'm like, "Guys, it's just acting." And they're like, "Oh, thank God." But, I put a lot of work into it and so did everyone else. And I think we came up with something a little unique, our own unique version on this type of story that's worth actually watching and checking out.
Girl Taken, a cautionary tale about the dangers of running away from home, is an enjoyable watch and one of the most intense thrillers you will see this year. Girl Taken airs Sunday, May 18th at 8, 7 Central on Lifetime and available to stream the next day. Eric Hicks, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you. And I had such a great conversation with you. It was such a pleasure.
Hey, you too, Rowell. Thank you, buddy.